Hey guys, welcome back to day 10 of Vlogmas. Super excited. I finally have myself a full day off from work. Super excited about that. And I actually set things up at work in such a way that barring a huge emergency, I shouldn't have to do anything today. Now, I did have somebody who had to submit like a missed work punch because they forgot to clock out the other night, but I helped them out because I wasn't going to let them not have their correct pay this week. So, yay. What to do? So it's actually pretty late. It's probably like noon at this point, somewhere around there, and I'm still like in my pajamas, kind of, sort of. I got ready. I am wearing like real pants and whatever. I even have shoes on, but I'm having a lazy day, and I decided that I was going to think about what would make like the perfect day. Now, I'm not saying like the best day ever with, needing a magic genie or something to be able to make it come true, but what is a reasonable best day on a day off that you've been looking forward to for ages? So, first things first, I slept in late and that was great. And then I stayed in bed for a little while and spent how long did I end up getting? Like an hour and a half of knitting time in. And I had gotten up and gotten kind of sort of ready. So that way that I was feeling refreshed and feeling good, but it was still all comfy and cozy. So I got about that much done. And I've got plenty more knitting time today, so I don't think I'm going to end here, but that's what I have done so far from this morning. And I am in my third color of Hedgehog Fibers Advent Calendar. So because I officially cut off color number 2, started color number 3, that means that color number 2 gets to go in my scrap bag. And I finally fixed my scale. So I'll tell you about this in a second because it's all part of my perfect day. But I went and got new batteries for my scale. And this is actually 2 grams. So I actually have more left over than what I should, because I should have stopped knitting at this point. But stopped knitting the main color and then started striping it at this point. But that's okay because I have a plan for these little extra guys. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in my scrap bag. Don't really care what order they're in when they're in here because they're going to go, I think, into a scrappy project. So that's all taken care of. Then, as I was sitting and knitting and enjoying rewatching The Cook of Castamar on Netflix, I think I've watched that movie, series, whatever, 4 times at this point, but I really like it, so I keep rewatching it. Again, that's The Cook of Castamar. Highly recommend if you like historical, kind of fiction-y sort of things. It is apparently based on a book, but I have not looked up yet if the book has been translated into English, because I think it is a Spanish book. But anyway, so I was watching that, and then it started to thunder, hence, second Sunday's being canceled today. It's fine. It started to thunder and started to pour. So I'm like, oh no. So I took the dogs out for one more potty before it got worse. And then went and got Chinese food for lunch, went to the grocery store to get batteries and paper towel and a couple of other things. And now I'm back home. So the next thing I want to do, what I want to do right now is go ahead and open up my Advents because I'm behind a day. You guys remember yesterday I got busy and it got dark and I didn't really want to open them in the dark. So we're going to go with day 9 first. We'll start with Hedgehog like we normally do. That's color. Oh, another blue. This one's pretty. I do like this one. And so get a nice look at that. So it's light blue, kind of a medium blue. It has some pretty speckles in there. It's kind of hard to see, but yeah. So super pretty color. So we'll go ahead and line that up to be able to put it back in the box. I'll put it next to the box so I don't forget what color, which day that is. So number 9 for Magpie Fibers. That's feeling like yarn again. So let's open her up, take a look. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so today is Taurus. Yes, okay. So I was thinking, didn't I already say I had the bull? But no, I had the ram for Aries. But so now we have the bull. Look how pretty that is. It's like a pale pink. It's very neutral. I'll have to look up what the flower and the gemstone are. It's looking orangey in this light, but in real life, it's like a pinky tan sort of color. So if we remember our previous two colors, we had this purple and then the blue. Yes, so Pisces, Aries, and that's the one that's next. So that's gonna look really pretty together. So I think this is color for our minis 1, 2, 3, color number 4. So it'll be like a solid color stripe itself. All right, so let's go ahead and wind those up and get those out of the way first. No, I still have 2 more colors. I still have 2 more boxes. My card to the side. All right, day 10, which is today. Oh, wow. Check that one out. It's very bright, but it's a nice color, bright pink. Like it's, I don't know. It's just really nice and bright, a little bit deep. It has some lighter colors of pink in there as well, but I love that little pop of blue right there. A little pop of speckles. So yeah, so those 2 will go next to each other. That'll be an awesome fade right there. All right, put that over by its box. And then number 10 actually sounds like yarn 2. So let's open her up and I don't know how this one opens. That's how it opens. Oh my gosh. Yay, another color of yarn. This is me. I can get the card out. This is Gemini, the twins. And it's a really pretty like lavender color. Again, it's got some little blue speckles in there. Maybe some green as well, or that could just be where the blue broke. But it's really pretty. So then those 2 will go next to each other. All right, so that's the yarn for today. Let me go wind this and then I will come back and tell you what our big project is. All right, so here we are, days 9 and 10 of Hedgehog fibers, and those are gonna go right back in their boxes. They don't get mixed up. There we go, and then we have days 9 and 10 of Hedgehog fibers. I'm not putting these guys back in their box, but I am keeping kind of them in an order. So I'll set those over there for the moment. All right, so now for today's project. I told you before that I love this hat, and I do love this hat. I love it so much. I really want to make a new one of these just so I can have another one. Also because I want to make it out of hand spun. Sorry, something on my hat. I want to make it out of hand spun, and I also want to write down the pattern. So I just kind of eyeballed this hat, and I like it, and it fits perfectly. Like, it's not too big, it's not too small. It's got this a little bit of a slouch at the top, but like not too much, and it's warm without being stifling. So I am sorry, I've got like all these emails that are popping up. So I can't get away from work. I'm not gonna read them, it's fine, it's not an emergency. So my hat. Then I also have a pattern that I found for a scarf that I want to make. I actually found it by accident. I'll have to look up the name. Sorry, there's something on my counter too. I have to look up the name of the shop, but I was watching one of the Nitty Natty yarn tours, and as they were going through, there was this really pretty, I thought it was brioche, like a 2-color brioche in a bulky or a super bulky, and it was a scarf with like big I think it either had tassels or pom-poms on the end, and it was hanging over a shelf. So I actually emailed the shop and was like, so I was watching this video and there's this really pretty scarf in the background. Can you tell me like how you did that? And apparently they didn't know because whoever the, not the buyer, but the consultant, I'm not gonna be able to get the name. The person who sold them the yarn, it's like a commercial brand of yarn. But the person who does that, there's a name, put in the comments, what name am I looking for? Anyway, she had just made it and dropped it off as a sample when she dropped off the yarn. And so the shop owner got back to me though and said that, or gave me a link to a Ravelry pattern, which was a basic 2-color brioche, which I've never done brioche before. And I love brioche. And so I think this would be a really great scarf pattern to start with. So my hat and the yarn pattern call for Malabrigo Rasta. So this is what I have left after making this hat. This is a super bulky, and it's, look at the details on here, 90 yards or 82 meters. Doesn't say how much it weighs. They might just sell it by length. All right, so that's the colorway right there of the yarn. And so I'm debating, so many things on my list. So I definitely want to make another one of these and write up the pattern. Definitely want to do the scarf. I don't know which one I'll do first, but I really want to try making my own kind of Rasta equivalent in hand spun. A couple of things I like about this. So it's 100% merino wool. I'm not going to be using 100% merino wool. Let me take my hat off because it's a little steamy in here. I don't need that right now. Sometimes I find with commercially spun singles is that they're kind of rough and not as soft as I would like it to be. I found that with Knit Collage. I had sampled several of their yarns. I was doing like one of their scarf patterns where it uses like a bunch of their minis. And I had gotten, when they were phasing out of color, I'd gotten a couple of mini kits just to test it out because it was a little bit less expensive because they were discontinuing those colors. But I found that it was like really rough because of the way they finished the yarn to set the twist to keep it from unraveling without it being like curly. So what happens normally when I do hand spun is I'll make singles. I will spin them clockwise, take 2 singles, spin them together counterclockwise to ply them. That evens out, balances out the twist so that your yarn is balanced and it doesn't like curl back on itself. It just hangs straight like you would expect yarn to. And you want your yarn to be balanced because if it twists in either direction and you knit something out of it, that active twist will twist the item that you made. So it'll stay live, and even though you've knit it, it'll still want to move that direction. So you don't want a lot of twist in your yarn. You don't want it to be unbalanced in its twist. We'll put it that way, because I do like tightly twisted yarn. It's very confusing. But anyway, normally when you do a single, you need to spin it as gently as you can. So a thin yarn takes more twist to hold together than a heavier yarn. Whenever you're doing just a single for singles use, you want to put as little twist into it as will keep it held together. Then what I like to do in the finishing process is I finish it a little rougher so it starts to kind of full, I don't want to say felt, but felt maybe even a little bit so that it holds itself together. Because when you pull on it, you don't want it to drift apart because otherwise as you're knitting, you're going to end up having your yarn break. So this is the Malabrigo Rasta that I showed you. And you can see that they've done a really nice job putting a low twist in it so it hangs straight. It doesn't curl back on itself. That's actually probably a better way to tell. It doesn't curl back on itself at all. It hangs straight. I don't think you're able to see the exact twist on the camera, but that's okay. It's a very low twist. But when they've kind of folded it and finished it, they did it in such a way that like it's still soft and it's really nice. So that's what I'm going for in my yarn. So I'm not going to dye my roving first for this project. I'm going to start with undyed roving. So what I'm using is Polworth in silk. So Polworth is a little bit of a coarser wool than merino is, therefore it's a little more durable. Having the 15% silk in it helps give it this really nice shine, adds a little bit of softness to it, and a little bit of strength. So I really, really like this as a combination for fiber. This is the Ashford Jumbo E-Spinner. Got it a little while ago, opened it up and put it back on my table and then never used it. I actually ended up getting a smaller e-spinner that was portable. I'll probably talk about that another day. But I was hoping to be able to use this for, I don't want to say commercial production, but I wanted to be able to spin faster, and I wanted to have the option of being able to do like super bulky yarns and being able to get larger amounts on one bobbin without having to stop in between. So that's why I got this. But like I said, I haven't played with it yet at all. So that's also part of today's experiment as well. But like I said, I have a smaller e-spinner, so it's not like I've never ever used an e-spinner before, but this will just be kind of a new one. So it's heavy, it's wood. Let me see if I can move you guys down a little bit. There we go. I believe you can get separate bobbins, so you can have more than one bobbin, but they are kind of expensive. So I only got the one that came with the machine. Their yarn guides are these like little clips that you have to kind of pull back and forth. They're kind of hard to move, especially because this rod here is wood rather than metal like a lot of them are. But yeah, so it's got an orifice reducer. So if you want to do a thinner yarn, you can do that. And put it in so that way it's not like bouncing around quite as much as you're spinning. These say that they're supposed to be able to get up to about 3 pounds of fiber on here. That does really depend, obviously, on how you're spinning. It's the same thing with any bobbin, that not every type of yarn can you get the same weight on here. So that's probably spinning really finely and packing it on quite nicely that you get 3 pounds. I started out with just 1 pound of fiber. It's actually 459 grams. I was aiming for 454 grams. I went a little bit over, but that's okay. I didn't feel like tearing off little chunks to put back in my bump box. So that's what that is. And I'm hoping I can get all of this in a super bulky single on here. That's what the goal is. So I am debating exactly how I want to spin. So if I'm doing a big project, sometimes I'll just grab and kind of go from here. But I also have a tendency to draft out too thin. So I'm thinking what I might do is go ahead and grab a decent sized piece, tear it, and then I think I'm going to split it. I think I'm only going to split it once, because if I don't like this, I can always go back to using the whole thing. But I would maybe split this into thirds would be my idea, but I'll hang on to it and not do that quite yet. And then so that way, as I'm spinning, I'm hardly drafting it, so most of it's, yeah, I don't know. We're going to figure it out. And then I also think I'm going to, normally I would do a clockwise spin and then apply counterclockwise. But because this is a single and I plan on using it for knitting, I think I'm just going to spin it counterclockwise. All right, I just forgot or just realized I don't have a leader on here yet. So I'm going to plug this in and I'm going to find a leader and then we'll get started. All right, so I usually like to use a piece of wool yarn. Sometimes I'll use like hand spun yarn that I didn't like the way it came out. And I'll keep, instead of just like tossing it or whatever, I'll keep it and use that as my leaders because they do wear out after a while. But I couldn't find any, so I just got some cotton crochet thread. I tied it together on one end, and so now I'm gonna go ahead and loop it through here. Oops, got some of my yarn on it already. So like I said, bear with me because I have not used this machine before. This is literally like my test drive. So I'm gonna feed this through here. There's a orifice hook hidden in the side, which I like. And we'll pop that through. All right. So I think, don't know how tight that's supposed to be, but we'll make sure it doesn't come off at least. And then I've got my drive band. My brake? My drive band? No, I think this is actually the brake over here. And the drive band's on the other side. So that's like opposite of normal. That's interesting. All right, so on this side over here, there's a twist switch. So you can pick S or Z. So S twist, Z twist is clockwise, S twist is counterclockwise. I always forget, and like the visual of the Z and the S just don't stick in my head. So I said I want to do this counterclockwise, so I'm going to move it over to the S twist. There is a dial that starts on slow and then gets faster, and then an on switch. It also has a foot pedal that doesn't reach the floor. If I were sitting at like a normal height something, I'm sure it would, but having the taller counter, it just doesn't fit. So let me go ahead, well, I don't know what angle. So we're gonna go ahead and just put this here and operate it by hand, and we'll see how that goes. So let's go ahead and just experiment a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and click it on. The light came on, so far so good. Usually it takes a little bit for it to engage, but it should have. All right, let's do a little troubleshooting. I'll get right back to you. Okay, so I didn't need to do any troubleshooting. I did Z twist, hit it, and it started going, and then I did S twist, and now it's kind of working, but my bobbin was spinning, but my flyer wasn't. So let's go ahead and try this. I adjusted the brake. Oh, there we go. And I'm already spinning way too thin. Some of the trouble as well is that this will also kind of plush up a little bit in the finishing process, so it's hard to tell how much you actually, whoop, that's way too thin. I don't think that's enough twist. Loosen the brake a little bit more. Pull this back out some. Like hesitates. All right, so let's take a little comparison. All right, so I'm giving it a little bit of slack to let it kind of relax a little bit. And you can see that it's nowhere near the size that I need it to be. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull it all back out, consider that a practice. And then we'll actually, do I have much on there? I don't know how much on there. I think I'm gonna keep going, but I need to be like twice as much. Holy cow, that took so much longer than I thought it was going to be. So it took like 3.5 hours to do the entire pound of fiber. And I actually ended up doing it in 2 batches. So what happened was I had one batch on here and it had broken one time, like the yarn had come apart, and it was hard to find the end, but I got it back going again. And then it broke again later on and I couldn't find the stupid end. For the life of me, could not find it. So I ended up having to, there's a strand that I thought it was, but I couldn't find the actual end. So I ended up cutting it and then pulling it off and putting it on my yarn swift, my umbrella swift, just so I could get it off. And then, so I got most of it off, and then I had, this is like some weird leftover bits. I almost was going to like just spin it back in, but I got mad and just threw it to the side. So I'll use it for stuffing or something later, or I can put it back into a bat that I make or something. So it's not a big deal. It won't go to waste, but it's just not in this yarn. So it's actually probably a good thing. I measured out too much fiber, so whatever. So I took that off, and this is what it looks like. So that's batch number 1. So you can see there's some areas, you can see that, where there's like a little curly Q, so that happens. But actually overall, it's not bad. Like if you over twist it too much, it'll like twist back on itself, and you can see it's twisted a little bit, but not bad at all. So I think if I wash it nicely, if I like wash it kind of aggressively so it folds a little bit and stays together, I think that'll be nice. It's not as thick as I need it to be. Again, like I never spin this bulky. It's driving me crazy. So there's some areas where it's like the right thickness, but most of it's still too thin. But I'm gonna dye it up and maybe try the hat with it and see if it will work anyway. So there's that. And then the second round, I don't know what happened, but like it kept breaking. I don't remember what I did first. So I had started doing it, but it was taking like so long. So I had like a slower speed. It was less than the halfway mark. And I'm like, I can't spin this slowly. And I was also drafting it out too thin because I was bored waiting for it to pull on, get enough twist. So I cranked it up so it would go faster. It still doesn't go real fast, but whatever, it's fine. But then the yarn kept breaking, which is weird because usually if it's spinning faster, you're putting more twist into it. So I was worried about getting over twisted. Anyway, so it took forever to actually get going with that again. And I've got a bunch of like small pieces that it just kept like breaking and it wouldn't attach together and stay. But we're all done. So this is what the second one looks like. So you can see it has, has a little more twist in it than the other one. You can see it's a little bit more crinkly, but yeah, and so it twists a little bit, but again, that's not bad considering it's a single. So I'm pretty happy with the way it came out. I also started thinking, as I was working on this one, I'm wondering if the reason why I'm having trouble with it, and like there's some areas where it like, it's a little fuzzier than what I would normally like, which I think when I go to wash it, that'll take care of it. I wonder if it's because I'm doing a single counterclockwise. I'm wondering if I'm so used to spinning it clockwise that it's just going through my hands weird. I don't know. So we'll see how that goes. So what I'm going to go do now, I may or may not actually show it on the on video because I'm going to go do it in my bathroom and there's not great lighting in my bathroom. Not that there's great lighting in here either, but whatever. I have a bucket right now. Usually I do it in my kitchen sink, but I have a clean bucket. It doesn't have any like cleaning products or anything in it, but a clean bucket that's sitting in my bathtub. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill it with the hottest water that I can get out of the tap and still put my hands in, which with all the dyeing that I do, I think I've killed all the nerve endings in my fingers, so I can stand the water pretty hot. And then what I'll do is I'll start with one at a time and kind of put it down into the water and then bring it back up. And then I'll kind of pull on it a little bit to kind of just straighten it out. And then I'll go through and I'll dunk and press, and I'll keep going around in a circle. Look how curly it gets when I do that. Anyway, so I'll dunk and press, and then I'll do that with each one, and then I'll let it sit there. I think I want to go get a coffee. It's like $5.50 right now-ish, $5.49 if you want to be exact. So I'll go get a coffee, and then by the time I get back, it should be nice and soaked. And then I'll probably put it in my spin dryer and then hang it up to dry. So I think I think I'll probably leave you here for tonight with what the yarn looks like. We'll go ahead and finish it tonight, hang it up to dry, and then that way we'll get either a better idea of like wraps per inch, or we might tomorrow just go ahead and dye it. What color should I dye it? I don't know. We'll figure that out tonight while we're doing our extra knitting. So yeah, so I think I'm gonna go and keep knitting on my Hedgehog fibers. I'm excited about that third color. We'll see how far we can get tonight. Yeah. So I'll see you guys tomorrow, and hopefully that'll be the day that we dye this stuff up. All right, see you for day 11 tomorrow. Bye, guys.